The story begins in the early morning as Joe starts his day with a routine that keeps him in top shape. He begins by doing some physical exercise to stay fit. After working up a sweat, he sits down to enjoy his usual protein meal, making sure he eats properly before heading out for an important football game. Joe is the star quarterback, and today's game is important. If they win, they'll reach the playoff finals closer to the championship.
Hold on, ready, let's go!
At kickoff, Joe is focused. He spots teammate Sanders open and in position for a pass. But instead of passing, Joe keeps the ball.
Kingman is on the run. He's inside the 5. He stiff arms.
He runs and scores a touchdown, making the crowd cheer. The team wins and moves into the finals. That night, Joe invites his teammates to celebrate at his place. There's music, food, and fun. Later, Sanders says he needs to leave.
Yeah, it's New Year's Eve. I'm gonna go home, hug the wife, kiss the kids.
Joe and others joke that he's rushing home to his wife. Sanders isn't amused.
Come on, get a life, Sanders.
Oh, you call this life?
That's funny. That was funny, man.
He tells them they'll understand when they have families of their own. Everyone leaves and Joe is alone with his dog. The next morning while watching TV, a reporter criticizes him.
Why does that championship ring elude Kingman?
He says Joe plays well but still hasn't won a championship. He adds that Joe's aging and this season might be his last chance. Joe mocks the reporter's voice, clearly annoyed. Then Joe gets a call from Larry, the building's doorman. There's a young girl asking for him. Joe assumes it's a visit from a girlfriend.
Is she cute?
Oh, exceedingly so, sir.
Excited, he rushes to the door but finds a little girl named Peyton. Confused, he thinks she's selling cookies and tries to give her money. She refuses. Joe offers an autograph thinking that's what she wants, then heads back inside. But Peyton walks in and plays with his dog.
Yeah, easy. He's a very vicious attack dog.
Joe is surprised by how casual she is. He tells her not to enter strangers' homes and asks where her mom is. Peyton says she's on a plane. Joe asks who she's with, and she says she came to see her dad. When he tells her to return to the lobby so they can find who brought her, she says she's here for him because he's the father.
Hi, we've never met before.
Joe is stunned. Peyton explains that, even though they've never met, she's his daughter with his ex-wife Sarah. Joe laughs nervously thinking it's a joke. He's sure he never had a child with Sarah.
No.
He's in full denial. This is awkward and amazing. Then Peyton hands Joe a letter from Sarah. In the letter, Sarah explains that she needs Joe to take care of their daughter for a month because she's dealing with an emergency. Joe still has doubts, but Peyton shows him her birth certificate. When he looks at it, he sees his own name written down as her father.
My name's not on Joseph King.
Joe panics and calls his agent Stella and tells her there's a serious situation that she needs to help him with immediately. Stella soon arrives and is just as shocked as Joe when she sees Peyton. She tells Joe that if he had ever mentioned having a daughter, she could have prepared better for the situation. Joe explains that he and Sarah got married when they were very young, but the marriage didn't last. They got divorced less than a year later, and he hasn't seen her in 8 years. Stella then asks Peyton how old she is. Peyton replies that she's 8 years old. Joe starts to realize that it might actually be true. Peyton could really be his daughter.
Congratulations, Joe.
This isn't happening to me.
Stella tries to test Peyton by asking her several difficult questions, but Peyton stays calm and answers confidently.
She's on her way to Africa.
If I had a dime for every time I heard that one.
I begged her. I said, well, why don't I stay with my father?
She says her mother put her in a car and sent her to Joe's house before heading straight to the airport. Stella suggests trying to call or email Sarah, but Peyton says that there's no phone signal or internet access where her mom went. As they talk about what to do next and whether someone else could take care of Peyton, Joe remembers that Sarah had a sister named Karen. But when they ask Peyton about her, she sadly replies that Karen has passed away. Now they have no other option, and Stella begins to worry about what the media will say. She's afraid people will think Joe abandoned his daughter all these years and is now refusing to care for her.
She does turn out to be yours. You look like a guy who had a kid and ditched her, and you can kiss your megabucks goodbye.
We don't even look alike.
Not at all.
Joe gets ready for football practice and decides to take Peyton along, but she refuses to get in the car because it doesn't have a child-safe seat.
So what? Get in the car.
If you get in an accident, the airbag will hurt me.
To calm her, he gives her his helmet and she agrees to go. On the way, Peyton asks Joe questions like what makes him happy and his greatest life moment. He talks about football, but she isn't impressed. She also avoids talking about Sarah and changes the topic every time he tries.
What's the best thing that's ever happened to you?
At one point, she gives him a cookie instead of answering. He eats it but still wonders why Sarah didn't bring her. At the stadium, Joe realizes his voice sounds odd, thin, and weak.
Are you okay?
Do I sound okay? What you put in those cookies?
He asks what was in the cookie and she says cinnamon. Joe gets mad since he's allergic. Peyton replies she's also allergic to nuts. At practice, his teammates notice Peyton and assume she's a fan, but she tells them she's Joe's daughter. They're shocked.
I'm not a fan, I'm Joe's daughter.
What's everybody staring at?
The next morning, Joe tells Peyton they eat like athletes, no sugar or junk food. When she tries to open the fridge, he stops her. He cooks a huge pasta dish. He eats happily, but Peyton gives hers to the dog. That night, Peyton asks Joe to read her a bedtime story. He's not interested, so she tells one instead. Joe falls asleep while listening. Later, she sneaks into his room and quietly calls her mom. She whispers answers, not wanting Joe to hear. Her mom asks about ballet school and wants pictures soon. Next day, Peyton asks Joe if there's a ballet school nearby. He says he doesn't know. While making breakfast, he asks why she isn't in school. She says she's on break. He's unsure but lets it go. Later at practice, Stella brings nanny options for Peyton. Sanders tells Joe to ask them questions, but Joe says he'll go with his gut. He picks one, and she cheers loudly.
Wanda, you're up.
She tells Peyton they'll be like sisters. Oh, she's definitely getting fired. I give it 24 hours max. That night, Joe takes Peyton to a bar where his teammates are hanging out. It's loud and fun. Joe jokes around, enjoying himself.
Hey, everything's on Joe tonight.
Peyton stays busy and convinces a teammate to help her dress a doll. He plays along and she laughs, having fun.
That's what I was thinking too.
After the party, Joe drives off singing, still cheerfully. Suddenly, he remembers he left Peyton at the bar. Panicked, he rushes back. A crowd is gathered, reporters, cameras. Peyton stands alone. They quickly realize Joe, a star athlete, left his daughter behind.
Hey, Joe, you forget something?
Next morning, it's everywhere in the news. Joe is called careless and unfit as a father. His team needs to fix things. Stella arranges a press conference with Joe and Peyton to improve his image. Before they go out, Stella talks to Peyton and asks her to say good things about Joe. Peyton agrees, but only if they promise not to hire a nanny. She wants to stay with her dad. Stella and Joe think she's in no place to demand things.
On one condition. No nanny. I'm feeling a little dizzy, Joe.
But Peyton threatens to tell reporters Joe gave her a drink at the bar. Shocked, they give in and fire the nanny to avoid more trouble.
You're fired.
Called it. The nanny lasted less than a day. Peyton 1, nanny 0. During the press conference, Joe doesn't do a great job. He struggles to answer the reporters' questions and can't seem to defend himself well. He comes across as unprepared and awkward. But just when things seem hopeless, Peyton jumps in. She confidently tells the journalist how amazing Joe is, even making up a few heartwarming stories to make him look like a great father.
My dad didn't have much of a heads up on this whole father thing. And I mean, he's teaching me that you can do anything if you've got motivation. You're the world's greatest father.
The audience loves it. Peyton saves the day. After the conference, Joe leans down and thanks her for helping him. She whispers back, saying that he now owes her, and she expects something in return. The next day, Joe takes Peyton to a ballet studio because she wants to try dancing. When they arrive, they meet the teacher, Monique. She tells them that the classes have already started and new students must audition before joining. Joe tries to convince her to let Peyton join without an audition, but Monique stands firm.
Okay, the thing is that this is a professional school and...
As Monique watches, Peyton suddenly begins dancing on her own, showing some simple ballet moves she knows. Monique, impressed by Peyton's natural charm and excitement, decides to give her a chance and lets her join the class. While the class goes on, Peyton sneakily takes a few pictures with her phone, trying to capture the moment. Joe waits until the class ends, watching from the side. When it's over, Monique tells Peyton she did well, and Joe proudly says she'll be attending every day from now on. But Monique shakes her head. She tells Joe this isn't just a place to drop off kids like a daycare. If Peyton is going to keep attending, then Joe must also be committed and involved in her ballet journey.
Well, it is a ballet school, not a childcare facility.
Joe, feeling important and proud, tries to tell her he is Joe Kingman, a famous athlete who is too busy to be involved. He states that Monique must be odd not to recognize any of his famous sayings or reactions. He jokes that Monique must be living under a rock if she doesn't recognize him.
No? Nothing? Odd.
Monique clearly seems like she has no idea who he is and doesn't care about his background. Joe walks out frustrated. That night, Joe hosts a game night at his house with his teammates. Peyton was there and the boys were doing goofy boy things, not paying much attention. Just when they were hooked and about to celebrate for the game to be won, Peyton messed with the digital remote to the TV and changed the channel. They kept trying to return it, but the boys ended up frustrated because they missed the best part. After they left, Joe was frustrated with her for messing with his remote and told her to bath in bed. Peyton went to take a shower, but she ended up being soaked in a lot of bubble soap, and the dog rushed to seek aid from Joe. Joe rushed to the bathroom filled with bubbles, and he also ended up getting wet and soaked in it while rescuing her. The next day as well, Peyton continued to bombard his routines while he works out with her ballet practices, and it made him snap.
My dog, my bed, my car, my TV, my stereo. This is all mine. It's all me.
The next day, Joe plays in a big football game. He performs amazingly on the field and leads his team to the next round of the championship. After the match, while Joe is relaxing and getting a massage, Monique arrives with Peyton.
Mr. Kingman, we need to talk about...
You know what? Why don't you just call me Joe?
She tells Joe that it's time for him to be a real father, not just someone who shows up when it's convenient. The type of parent that thinks their lives are more important than someone else's. She told him just like he thinks his team depends on him, he also has a daughter that depends on him, and he should be there to care about her. She challenges him to prove his love for Peyton. When he asks how, she takes him back to the ballet school. There, she tells him he's going to be part of their upcoming ballet performance, and he'll play a tree on stage. Joe laughs, thinking she's joking.
No, what I'm telling you is I am a serious athlete, not a ballerina.
Monique is serious. Still confident, Joe agrees, thinking ballet is easy. But when Monique begins training him, he quickly realizes how wrong he is. The movements are tiring, and after just a short session, Joe is out of breath, and he finds it hard to act put together. Monique smirks and makes fun of him for struggling due to the sport he denied being hard.
So, if ballet were easy, they call it football.
The next morning, Peyton quietly makes a video call to her mom. She misses her and wants to talk. Her mom says she misses Peyton too and asks her to send some photos. Peyton sends the one she took at ballet class, but quickly ends the call when she hears Joe coming. Joe takes Peyton to a new room he's just prepared for her. She's delighted by how pretty it is. Joe smiles and tells her he knows he's not perfect, but he's trying hard to be a good dad and make her feel at home.
I just joined the dad team, and I'm still learning all these plays.
No kidding.
That evening, as they sit watching TV together, Peyton asks Joe a sweet question. She wants to know what the best thing that's ever happened to him is. Before he can answer, his phone rings. It's his girlfriend, Tatiana, and she says she's coming over soon. Joe lights up with excitement, clearly happy to hear from her.
Tatiana's coming at 6. I got plenty of time. It's 5:45.
Peyton asks questions about Tatiana, but Joe didn't pay much attention and kept on getting ready. When Tatiana arrives, Joe is still trying to choose an outfit. Peyton sees her and doesn't seem pleased.
I'm Tatiana. What are you?
Peyton, Joe's daughter.
Joe's daughter?
Joe finally appears, dressed and ready for a date. He tells Peyton he's taking Tatiana out for the evening. But just as they are about to leave, Peyton says she feels sick. Joe, concerned, cancels the date to stay home and take care of her. Once back inside, Peyton tells Joe she can't believe he let someone like Sarah go just to be with Tatiana. Joe defends himself, saying he didn't leave Sarah. She left him. Peyton disagrees. She says her mom always told her that Joe didn't care about anyone but himself. Joe, now angry, says Sarah was always complaining and starting arguments, and Peyton is doing the same. Frustrated, he says he's lucky she doesn't look anything like him. Peyton, hurt and upset, walks away from him.
What do you want from me?
Joe realizes he went too far. He tries to apologize, but she doesn't seem interested. So he stands outside her door and starts singing softly. Eventually, Peyton opens the door. Joe gently says he's sorry for what he said. He tells her he'll do whatever she wants. Peyton says she wants him to come play with her and her friends at the mall. Joe agrees and takes her there, but once they arrive, he struggles to handle all the energetic kids.
I am serious. Everybody, huddle up. Hey, I didn't say break.
You call your dad, Joe?
I do, but come here. Oh,
Feeling overwhelmed, he calls Monique and asks her to come help. She soon arrives, and Joe tells her he's not good at this parenting stuff. As they talk, Joe says only mothers know how to handle children, but Monique disagrees. She says fathers are also strong, and they can give their kids courage they didn't know they had. Peyton comes over and asks Joe if she can paint his hands. He smiles and agrees. The next day at football practice, his teammates laugh when they see the colorful paint on his hands.
Somebody stole his man card.
They tease him, but Joe doesn't mind, which shows he somehow has evolved from his egocentric and self-obsessed personality. During the same practice, Peyton runs onto the field and joins the team, trying to play with him. Later, she and Joe go to the ballet class again to keep her practicing for the upcoming show. Finally, the day of the performance arrives. Joe and Peyton arrive at the venue, excited but nervous. Joe gives Peyton some flowers and tells her to give them to Monique. Peyton hands them over, and in return, Monique gives Joe his costume for the performance. Joe looks at the outfit, surprised by how small and silly it seems.
No.
He hesitates and says he doesn't think he can wear it, but Monique tells him firmly he has no choice. It's tree time! I can't wait to see this ridiculous costume. Right before the show begins, Peyton looks really nervous. Her face shows fear, and it's clear she's worried about performing in front of so many people. She even looks like she might start to panic. But then, just in time, Joe arrives. He sees how anxious she is and immediately tries to comfort her. He gives her a few supportive words, telling her she'll do great on stage.
You just have pre-game jitters, that's all. All athletes have those. We've worked way too hard to quit now.
To lighten the mood, he even jokes about how silly his outfit looks. His funny comment makes Peyton laugh, and that small moment helps her feel a bit calmer before she heads off to perform. Once Peyton leaves to get ready, Joe stays behind. That's when his football teammates show up. As soon as they see him in his funny costume, they burst into laughter and start making jokes.
That is the stupidest outfit I've ever seen. Yeah, you should have said no, Joe. Should have said no.
They tease him a bit, but then they let him know that the whole team is there to support the performance. They're sitting in the audience, ready to watch the show. Oh, this is going to be epic. They're never going to let him live this down. When the performance starts, everything goes well. The dancers perform beautifully, and the audience enjoys the entire show. Even Joe's teammates who laughed earlier end up having a great time. They cheer and clap when the show ends. The next day, Joe and his team play another big football game. They work together, push hard, and in the end, they win. Their victory means they're now going to the championship final. A few days later, Joe and Peyton invite Monique to lunch. As the three of them sit at the table, they begin talking about the upcoming final game. During the conversation, Joe casually mentions that Peyton won't be around by then because her guardian and mother Sarah will be back from her trip.
Well, can't you just go home after the game?
No, I have to get back before she does.
Peyton agrees and says she plans to leave before Sarah returns. Joe looks confused. He doesn't understand why Peyton would leave so suddenly. He turns to her and asks why she said she had to leave before Sarah returns. Peyton looks nervous. She knows it's time to be honest and confess something important.
I'm supposed to be studying at a special ballet program this month, but instead, I snuck away to come meet you.
But right as he was trying to understand what she was saying, Peyton suddenly starts coughing and struggling to breathe.
Oh, stop it. That's not going to work this time. You're in serious trouble.
Because she's sweating like crazy and just...
Her face changes, and everyone realizes something is wrong. There were nuts in the food she was eating, and she's having an allergic reaction. At first, Joe thinks she might be faking it to avoid the conversation, but he quickly sees that she's really in trouble. As her condition worsens, Joe doesn't wait. He picks her up and rushes her to the hospital as fast as he can. After some time, the doctors come out and tells Joe that Peyton is going to be okay. Joe finally breathes a sigh of relief, but before he can relax, a woman walks into the room. It's Karen, with whom Peyton had been speaking over the phone hiddenly.
She's gonna be fine. The doctor says that she's gonna be fine.
Joe is shocked. He thought she was dead. Karen calmly explains that it wasn't her who died, but Sarah. Everything changes in that moment. Joe realizes that the woman Peyton has been calling her mother this whole time isn't Sarah, but actually was Karen. Karen says she didn't know Peyton had gone to find Joe. She explains that she only dropped Peyton off at the ballet school and didn't expect her to reach out. Karen then tells Joe that Peyton doesn't need him anymore and that she plans to take her home. Joe refuses. He says he wants Peyton to stay with him, but Karen strongly disagrees.
Are you saying you want Peyton to live here with you?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
This is not about you. This is about Peyton. What's best for her.
In the end, Peyton makes her own choice. Even though Joe wants her to stay, she softly tells him she's going home with Karen. Then she walks away, leaving Joe behind, heartbroken and sad. Later that night, Joe notices Peyton left her bag behind. He opens it and finds a few photos of Peyton and Sarah together. He also finds a letter, one that Sarah had written for him before she died. It's the original letter she tried to send. Reading it makes Joe emotional, and he starts to reflect on everything that's happened. The night before the championship game, Joe stays at the training center. He watches clips from old games. While reviewing the footage, he notices something important. He never passes the ball to Sanders.
He's open, Joe. Sanders is wide open.
Just then, Sanders walks in and sees Joe looking upset. Joe tries to call Peyton again, but her phone goes straight to voicemail. He looks at Sanders and asks, "What should I do about Peyton?" Sanders listens and gives honest advice. He tells Joe to make sure Peyton knows how much he loves her, and that his love won't change no matter what. Then he adds that Joe needs to be patient. One day Peyton will come back when she's ready. The next day, right before the final game, Joe speaks to reporters. One of them asks how he feels about Peyton leaving.
As it that your daughter is no longer staying with you, how much easier will it be for you to focus on football?
Joe answers from the heart. He says he loves Peyton deeply and will always care about her. Somewhere else, Peyton watches the interview on TV with Karen by her side. Her face shows sadness. It's clear she misses Joe and feels upset about being away from him. A few days later, it's game day, but Joe doesn't seem focused. His mind is somewhere else, and his performance on the field is not his best.
Back to throw. Oh, he's drilled by the linebacker.
Then things get worse. He's tackled hard and falls badly. He gets injured and has to be carried off the field on a stretcher. In the locker room, the coaches ask if he can keep playing, but Joe shakes his head. He knows he can't go on, so he tells them to let someone else finish the game. As Joe sits alone, something surprising happens. Peyton walks in. She came back.
Peyton? Oh, come here.
She tells Joe she had to see him. Karen walks in right after. She finally understands that Peyton needs her father. Karen tells Joe that Peyton can now stay with him. Joe is filled with joy. Even though he's hurt, Peyton encourages him to keep going. She tells him to get back out there and fight for his team. Joe hesitates, he's in pain and exhausted, but her words give him the strength he needs.
My dad's not a quitter, and he never says no.
Joe shortly stands up, gets ready, and heads back to the field. As he walks out, he turns to Peyton and tells her that she's the best thing that's ever happened to him. That's the answer she was looking for. I'm not crying, you're crying. Joe rejoins the game. Just before the final whistle, he spots Sanders in a great position and passes the ball to him. Sanders catches it and scores the winning touchdown. The stadium erupts in cheers, and the team begins to celebrate their victory.
An incredible ending to a magnificent career. Joe King.
A reporter rushes to Joe and asks what he wants to do first now that he's finally a champion. Joe smiles and says, "I'm going to take my daughter home." Peyton runs to him and tells him how proud she is. She's happy he won. Joe hugs her tightly and says that while winning the trophy is great, having her by his side is the greatest victory of all. Then they walk together into the celebration. Peyton even gets to hold the trophy. And this time they step forward, side by side, as a true team. The film, based on the true story of Betty Ann Waters, opens with a scene showing the brutal 1980 murder of Katarina Brau in Massachusetts. Inside the house, especially in the kitchen and bedroom, blood is splattered everywhere. The scene clearly shows someone was murdered in a violent and merciless way.